Daryl here. The channel is Programming in Any Language. The supporting website is www.black-duck.com. The video is ToUpper, ToLower. It's pretty easy to convert a character from lowercase to uppercase. A lowercase a is an ASCII 113. Subtract 32 from it, you get an 81. ASCII 81 is a capital A. And since you can do that with a character, you can also do that with an entire string. That's what the methods ToLower and ToUpper do for us. So, with these two methods in hand, we can convert the case of a single character or an entire paragraph. But why would you want to do that? A very good answer to that question is to compare strings. When you're trying to find a single name in a file of 5,000 names, you need to consider not just how the name is spelled, but the case of the letter used to spell that name. If you're looking for Mary and you capitalize the M, any search is only going to find Mary if the match is found that includes the capitalized M. In other words, you're only going to find things that are spelled exactly as you type them, including case. And people don't always type things the way you expect. The following video demonstrates how you can accept the login ID and not care how the user types it in. By converting what the user typed and your database of matching login IDs to all uppercase or lowercase, you can guarantee a match is found as long as all the letters are there. Here's how that's done. Once you're working with characters and strings, one of the most common things you're going to do is convert the case of the characters or the strings into lowercase or uppercase. You're going to need that little aspect. In fact, in the early days of BASIC, one of the two functions I really used a lot was ToLower and ToUpper. In some cases, it was called lower, and it was called upper. It has different names from the different languages you might be working with. And in C#, there's a ToLower method and there's a ToUpper method. On the screen right now, we have the ToLower method. And basically, what you're putting in here is you're putting in your string var, and you're just saying .ToLower. And every character will become lowercase. It basically goes out to the ASCII code and converts it from the uppercase to the lowercase. Another one is the ToUpper method. Exactly the opposite. It takes any string and moves everything into uppercase mode. Again, using ASCII and moving it to uppercase rather than lowercase. Why? Well, let's take a look. I've got this little program right here that I used in class a number of times just to kind of give you the idea of what it can do. And I'm going to actually run it first so you get an idea of what's happening here. So we'll do a start on this thing. I'm going to remove the watch. We really don't need the watch. And we've got a little box in it to enter a string. I'm going to enter a string. I'll just put in Daffy, D-A-F-F-Y. And what it's doing is setting up an array of characters. And we're going to be able to point to any one of these characters on here, and I'll do that by putting in a 1 in here. And 1 should get us to the second character in the name, which is an A. And we'll say do it here, and indeed an A is the character it found. If I happen to change this to a 0, it's going to find a D, a capital D. If I change this to a 3, it's going to find an F. And you can check it to see if it's lowercase or uppercase by simply pressing this button over here. It's using the functions of a character. And it says, yes, it is lowercase. If I go ahead and bring this back to a 0 and bring a D in here, is it lower? No, it's not. It's not lowercase. Can I change this? Yes, I can. I can make that a lowercase d, and I can check it now. Yes, it is lowercase. I can make it an uppercase d. Is it lower? No, it's not lower. So all this is functioning through code. The code looks something like this. It's not doing much. I have very, very little inside this program right now. Basically, we've got a string, we've got some integers, characters, but I have this do it button right here, and it's grabbing the input text and putting it into a string. So what we're actually doing is taking that text box and putting it into a string variable. We're then pointing at it. We're entering an integer, of course we're parsing it, so we're creating something where we can point to one of those characters in that array. And then we'll take the character and actually point to it. And basically, if you look down here, we're using something called character ToLower character and putting it to CHR character. This is going to lower the case. This button lower. And button upper uses character ToUpper char character and puts it into the char character, and we get uppercase, and we paste that in the string there. So this is working with characters and characters only. Now, we can use this to work with strings in its entirety. And great. Okay, so what's it good for, though? Well, I've got a little example here. If you think back when we were first messing with characters and strings and all this kind of stuff, we look at this password validation program, which runs like this. And we enter a password, and we enter the word ducky, and do a verify on there, and we aired out a number of cases because we don't have, it's not 8 characters long. It needs at least one uppercase character. It does have a lowercase character, and it must have one numeric digit. It doesn't have that. So we'll create something else. We'll say DUCKY 1122 exclamation point. Verify it now. And there, it passed completely. So everything's there. It seems to work. But that works great when you're working with passwords. What about that login ID that we enter so many times with so many different websites? If you'll notice, the programs generally don't care if it's upper or lowercase or mixed or whatever when it comes to login ID. It actually goes ahead and just to see if your login ID matches something that they've got on file. How do they do that? Well, that's where we're going to start working with ToUpper and ToLower to simplify the process of actually trying to grab this. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to exit this program. We're going to modify this program a bit. I'm going to add a panel to this thing. So let's get our toolbox out. And let's go ahead and grab a panel and put it up here. And here's our little panel. And we're going to cover all this stuff. And kind of just go right over the top of it like this. And we'll call this panel PNL Login ID. We'll make it visible right now. We'll leave it visible as it is. And what I want to do is here, I want to actually put a login ID up and a verify button and some kind of message on here so we can actually bring this thing. In other words, we don't want to get the password validation until we've actually got the login ID going here. So I'm going to grab some things here and paste this stuff in. So I've got enter login ID, which is a label. We're not going to do anything special with it. We've got a text box here, which is going to be called TX login ID. And we've got a verify button here, which is button verify ID. And we've got this little message here saying LBL invalid ID. So the idea here is we're going to be able to enter a login ID. We're going to match this against a database, a list of members of a club or whatever to see if that person exists. And if they do exist, we'll pass then on down to the password validation. If not, we won't allow them to go forward. We'll stop and tell them they have an error in the login ID. So how are we going to do that? Well, we've got this thing in place now. So we're looking kind of good. Let's see how this looks if we actually start. I'm going to save it. And we'll run it just to make sure we're in shape here. We don't want to see anything else but this. And good, it's coming up with just the things we're looking for here. So that panel's hiding everything in the back, which is a good thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and close. And let's go ahead and actually go to our code in this thing. And what I want to do is I want to go to the very, very top. We can get rid of our toolbox. We're going to the very, very top here. And what I want to do is I want to enter a string. An array string is what I want to do. So under the password length here, I'm going to go ahead and give myself some room. And I'm going to say string. There we go. And I'm going to SKRMEMBERS, I'm going to call it. And it's going to be equal to, and we're going to put in some things here like Elmer Fudd. And a few others. We'll make this simple and pop in a couple. We've got 10 items in here right now. We've got Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig, Tweety Bird, Sylvester Cat, Yosemite Sam, Bugs Bunny, Petunia Pig, Henry Hawk, Foghorn Leghorn, and Daffy Duck. And we're going to close it off with a semicolon on the end of this thing. So we've created an array of characters. That's what we actually want to do here. So what's going to happen then is I want to go to this guy right here. And we're going to be able to enter something into this. So we're going to enter some kind of a name here. And that's going to turn I think our verify button is off, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's not engaged. So we're going to go ahead and double click on this. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow us to BTN verify ID that enables is true. We're going to turn on the verification button on this thing. So once we've got that done, we can actually do our verify. And this is going to be invisible unless we actually need something. So our verify button is going to do something for us. So we're going to go and click on that thing. And the verify button is going to go ahead and it's going to check the string ID that's coming in along with that members set that we have up here. We could think of this as a database, or we could have 100 or 1,000 members or whatever coming in. We want to check against that. I'm making it simple here by putting this into a small array, and we can just deal with 10 members of our club. So we're going to go down the verify routine here. We're going to create a string, and we're going to call it str login ID. We're going to make that equal to our txt login ID dot text, which the user is entering. This is going to read login ID. We're then going to take that str login ID and we're going to make it equal to str login ID to upper. Convert to uppercase. This is going to change whatever the user enters in the text box into all uppercase characters. We're then going to go down and we're going to create something called string member. Oops, I got to say string first. And this is going to be a variable of members. Now we can set up a check here to actually do this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a loop because I want to read all of the members that are in our loop and are in our database and check the login ID the user entered against any one of those. And if it appears a match, we're going to go ahead and go into the password verification routine. If not, we're going to say we have an error. This is an invalid ID. So we'll say for, and we'll say int I equals 0. I is less than 10, because we're using 10 names in there, and I++. And then set up our loop. Here's our loop. First thing our loop is going to do is going to take str member, which is our variable we set up above this, and we're going to make it equal to str members I. So our first member in our array is going to be popping in there. Grab member from array. We're then going to take str member and make it equal to str member to upper. Convert to uppercase. So what we've done here is we've actually taken the Elmer Fudd, Daffy Duck, whatever, and created all uppercase. And we know we've already, up here, we have already converted what the user entered into all uppercase. So now we're matching uppercase against uppercase. So no matter what the person entered, it should match something in our database if that person indeed does exist. We don't have to worry about the cases of misspellings or whatever else. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and say if str login ID is equal to str member. Then if that's true, we want to take our PNL, our panel login ID dot visible and make it false. We'll turn that thing off so we can see our other screen. I think that's really all we have to do is just turn it invisible because we're done at this point in time. We don't need to want any more checking. However, if it's not, we want to make our LBL invalid ID dot visible equal true. We want to be able to turn on our error indicator and let the user know that something is wrong with the ID they put in. We're also going to take the text login ID dot text and make it equal to nulls and allow the user to enter something else in there. Login ID focus and set them out to focus. And that should be all we really need to do for this thing, I think. Never sure until you test and find out what's going on. So we added that little bit of code. It's going to go into all those other code we've had here before. So we do a little file save in this thing. And we're going to take a look at this. And we'll start. And the first thing comes up is enter the login ID. So I'm going to enter Daffy and do a verify on this. And it's an invalid login ID. That person does not exist. How about Daffy Duck? Indeed, it passed that, allowed us to go into the password routine. Now we can enter a password for Daffy Duck if we want, whatever it might be. And we'll say, oh, Daffy, capital Z, exclamation point, and maybe 1, 2, 3. And then verify that and that passed, and it's all good and dandy. We can do whatever we want with this thing. The point is we're taking a look at the routine. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. And I want you to see something else on here. If we type in DAFFY-DUCK and verify this, it still passes because everything was converted to uppercase when it actually happened in here. So we can take a look at this thing and actually let's go ahead and go into our verify routine right here and put a breakpoint in here, and let's run this. And we'll put in our DAFFY-DUCK, hit verify on this thing. We'll watch what actually happens. We're going to go ahead and take str member, and we're going to go ahead and make a watch to it. We're also going to take our string ID, which is our log ID from that the user actually entered, and add a watch to that so we can actually see these two. So now if we hit F11 and we'll go through this thing, it's going to take Daffy Duck right here, as you can see, and it's going to convert it. Now it's all Daffy Duck. Now it's going to go through the loop and look for Daffy Duck. It has Elmer Fudd in here. It tries to match that. It doesn't find it. Notice Elmer Fudd's in caps too. It brings in Porky Pig. It brings in Tweety Bird. Converts it to uppercase in each case. Bugs Bunny. Should use somebody earlier in the loop here. Petunia Pig. Can't even spell her right. Henry Hawk. Foghorn Leghorn. There's Daffy Duck. Converted to uppercase. You can see the match already. So it's going through this loop, and it finds that it's there. So it turns the P&L login ID panel invisible and ends the program, and this part of the program, and goes into the next batch. If we continue on, it's already hit its end, and off it comes, and we end up with our password piece right here. So that's how it works. So ToUpper and ToLower work to convert strings into all uppercase or all lowercase, depending what you need them for. And password protection is an excellent way, well, the login ID piece is an excellent way of being able to compare things. Otherwise, you'd have to compare all kinds of combinations. Daffy Duck exists. How are we going to check all the different combinations you might enter in there? You convert it to one thing. You make everything uppercase and match it against the data. That's it. That's all there is to it.
Other cases where you might use this is in capitalizing the first word of a sentence. You can check for punctuation, and when encountered, the next letter you will come across will be the first letter of the next sentence. That's just another example how ToUpper and ToLower might be used. You find dozens of reasons to use this method in your programming careers. It's a good one. We'll explore trim next. Thanks for watching. Visit the website when you get a chance, and please subscribe to the channel. There's more stuff coming every week. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.